This is the group exercise number 2, create an end condition. In this exercise, we're going to create a fill and a ditch end condition in the same component. We're going to do a 6-to-1 fill and a 6-to-1 ditch. You should have a J5P3181.itl already created in exercise 1 for this chapter 4. If you don't have that created, you'll need to create it. If you don't know how to create it, it is right here, but you can also go back and look in chapter 4 exercise 1. In the beginning of that exercise, we show how to create this ITL. So we're going to go into that ITL, and we're going to go down into the J5P3181 folder, and we're going to create an end conditions folder. So let's do that first. So we're going to go in our template library. This is part of the end of exercise 1. As you can see, we created that curb in exercise 1. We're going to collapse the components, and then that J5P3181 folder, we're going to left click on it, and then we're going to right click on it and do a new folder. And then there we're going to say end conditions. Okay. And then the end conditions, we're going to end up creating a new component. Let's take a look at the manual here. So we have this created now. So we'll come down here and say within the end conditions folder, we're going to create a new template called slopes 6-to-1. And that is done by right clicking on that new folder we just created and doing a new template. So let's take a look at that. So we've got our end conditions folder. We'll left click on it, then right click and do a new template. And we're going to call this one slope, and then parentheses 6:1, close parentheses. We'll hit enter on that, and so now we've got slopes 6-to-1. And you can see once you hit enter on that, create that new template, it puts it in our box up in here under the name to let it know that that's the one that you're working on. Okay, so we've done this portion, and we're going to create this fill slope first, 30-foot horizontal, 6-to-1 fill slope. So if we scroll down through, to create the new slope component, we're going to right click on the edit template window. So out in that main window, we're going to right click and we're going to add new component, end conditions. As you can see here, right clicking, end condition. We're going to name it fill slope. Excess ground proposed will be our feature. It's going to take a look and try to find the terrain model, that's the target, and a priority of 1. The priority, if you have more than one end condition, which we will have, we'll have a fill slope and we'll have a ditch. You have to tell the program which one that you would like to solve for first. Okay, and then since our target type is terrain model, we're going to be having a look at the active terrain model. You could actually fill in a terrain model name here, and it wouldn't have to be active for this one to solve. But currently, most of the things we do look at an existing ground, so we set that at active. Okay, so we'll go back out to our template library, and in this blank window out here, we're going to right click, add new component, end condition. At the bottom down here, it brings up the last thing we're in. We haven't closed out of our ITL since we did exercise 1. So our name in here is the same. If this was the next day or a couple days later or something like that, and you've just now opened your ITL, this should be blank in here. But we're going to go out and fill this information in and take a look again real quick. Fill slope, excess ground proposed, priority of 1, and it's got an active terrain model for a target. So our name here, we're going to make it fill slope. Okay, we've got excess ground proposed, so that's going to be under our templates here, under grading, excess ground proposed. Target type is the terrain model, which we said priority was 1. We're going to look at the active terrain model. Okay, we're not doing benching right now. We do benching in I believe, our Road 2 class, so there may be some benching in there that we'll talk about at that point. Okay. So we've got it named, we've got the feature definition placed out there, just as it shows in step 6. So we'll go to step 7, and we're going to look at the dynamic settings dialog, and we're going to fill it in this way. So our first point name is fill slope T. It says select from list, so there's a list in the dialog box that you can choose from. So we're going to try to find that fill slope T, existing ground, excess ground proposed. We won't apply affixes this time, and we're going to start it at 0, 0. So we can come back to this dialog here in just a second and take a look at it. Down here at the bottom, you also want the steps set up. Okay, so we'll do that here in just a second in the other steps. So step 7 is to set it up like that. So we'll come in here, we have to have our dynamic settings turned on. If you're still from exercise 1, you may have it turned on. If not, it's right down here by the scroll bar, that little button right here, dynamic settings. We'll open that up. Point 1 and point 1 are already here in our steps, so if it's not, you can just fill that in right here. Point 1 and point 1. Okay, our point name, if we take a look at that again, our point name is going to be fill slope T, and we're going to select it from the list. So we do the drop down, come down here to fill slope T. Okay, again we got excess ground proposed, which we found out earlier was in the grading area. Excess ground proposed. We won't apply affixes this time, and we're going to start this right here at 0, 0. So we'll do an XY, and we'll do 0, 0. And once you type 0, 0 in, you'll hit enter, and the enter key will go ahead and start that fill slope T point. Okay, and that was step 8 there, 0, 0 and hitting enter. For the second point, we're going to set up the dynamic dialog box that's shown here, where we've got a fill slope B, and we're doing a horizontal and slope of 30, which is going to be in feet, comma negative 1:6. So that's your 6-to-1 slope. That's how those are written in there. Okay, our check for interception, place point, we're going to enable these 3 items, these 3 check boxes. That'll allow this point to go out and look for that existing ground target, that terrain model that we have, and if it sees it, it'll draw to it. And it's going to continue to look for it until it finds it here, as long as the end condition is infinite. Okay, so all 3 of these are checked on, and it will go and try and solve for that existing ground. So let's go back out into our template library here. Okay. So we had the fill slope B. That should be in our list right above where we were at. Fill slope B. Existing ground proposed is still our feature definition. We wanted all 3 of these items checked. Okay, check for interception, place point in interception, and end condition is infinite. Our steps, we already filled those in, so those should be good. And then we had a horizontal and slope. We were going to go out 30 feet, so that's your horizontal, comma, negative, because we want to go down, 1:6. So that's your 6-to-1 slope and how you write that. So once we type that in just like that, we can hit enter, and it will go out and create this fill slope. As you can see down there at the bottom, here's the 30 foot, and it's a 6-to-1 slope. Now we're finished with that. So we come out here now, it says right click and select finish, and that will create that. So let's go back in here and right click in a blank area and select finish. Okay, if you want to see what that fill slope B looks like, you can double click on that, and you can see that it switches that to a value of a percent slope. Okay, so we put a 6-to-1 in there, but it goes ahead and puts in a percentage of slope for that at 30 feet. Okay, so now our fill slope is in there. It's got priority of 1. If you want to double check that you got that correct, you can actually double click on the green line that represents the fill slope. And here it has it how it's set up, how we set it up, terrain model active, and priority of 1. So that is complete. The next step then is to go in and put our ditch. So this in the next few steps will describe that. Step number 11, we're going to add another new end condition. We're going to try to look at a 24-foot horizontal 6-to-1 slope. We kind of know how to do that now. We got a 4-foot flat bottom, which will be a 0% slope. And then we've got a 4-to-1 back slope at 5 feet. Okay, so what we've learned from putting in the fill slope, we should be able to put in our ditch now. So we're going to do an end condition. Again, we're going to name it ditch, and it's going to have everything the same. You also notice here a priority of 1. So later on when we test this, we're going to have to switch which one we want to use, and we'll show you how to do that. Okay, so we're going to name this one ditch. Okay, so we're going to come back into our create template. We're going to right click out in this area, add new component, end condition. Where it wants you to plug in that information about the ditch is right down here at the component name. So we're going to change this to ditch. We'll still have an existing ground proposed, still looking at the terrain models and priority of 1. Now if I was creating this myself at this point, I would probably make that a priority 2 so that we wouldn't have conflicts. But we're going to show you how to check for conflicts and fix those here in a moment. Okay, so we're going to come out here on the screen, and the first thing that it asks us for is where we want to start it. Okay, so we've got all that information in there, so we'll slide down. We're going to pick from the list ditch 4 slope 1T, and we're also going to start it at 0, 0. So everything else is kind of the same here. Ditch 4 slope 1T. So for this first point, we're going to scroll up, ditch 4 slope 1T, and that should be in your list. We're also going to have existing ground or excess ground proposed. That's the same. Our steps are the same. So we'll just come into our XY and plug in 0, 0, and we hit the enter key on that, and that will start it at that location. The second point of our line is going to be the ditch 4 slope 1B, which is also in the list. We don't want it to this point to check for interceptions at all, because this is going to go down to the ditch, and we're telling it that we want it to go down 24 feet or over 24 feet and down at a 6-to-1. Okay, so you can kind of see what we're going to do here. We're going to do an HS just like we did before, only this time it'll be 24 colon negative 1 comma negative 1 colon 6. Okay, easy for you to say. So in this one, we're going to do a ditch 4 slope 1B. Excess ground proposed is the same. We're doing HS again. Up here at the top, we're going to uncheck all 3 of these. Make sure they're not checked. And in our horizontal slope, we're doing a 24 comma negative 1 colon 6. So just like before, we're only going 24 foot this time. So we hit enter after that, and it should just match right on top of that horizontal slope line that we have out there. Now we got to put in our flat bottom ditch part. So we'll scroll down through here, and in the list we should have a ditch back slope 1B, everything disabled again, and we're just doing a horizontal slope again of 4 with a slope of 0. So we're doing ditch back slope 1B. Let's go find that. So ditch back slope 1B is in my list. Excess ground proposed, everything is unchecked just like we want it. Horizontal slope is what we're using still. And we're going to go over 4 for our 4-foot flat bottom ditch, comma, 0% no slope at all, and we'll hit enter on that. you zoom in, you can kind of see what we've got here. From 24 to 28, we've got a 4-foot flat bottom ditch. Now we need to finish that out and have this point. This point is actually going to go out and look for that existing ground. So we'll end up turning that information on for this point. So let's take a look at that. Okay, we're looking at ditch back slope 1T this time. And we're going to enable those items, like I said before, have it look for the end conditions. And again, we're doing a horizontal slope. We're going out 5 feet at 25%. So that's a little bit different. Instead of doing a 4-to-1 or anything like that, we're doing 25%. Okay, so let's go look at that. We've got a ditch back slope 1T this time for the top. So we'll find that in our list. We're going to turn on the interception and the end condition is infinite and have it place a point at the interception where it meets that existing ground or the active terrain. Feature definition is going to be the same. We're still using the HS, horizontal slope. This time we're going 5 foot. So we're doing a 5, comma, and we're going to go up. So we're doing 25%. So 5 foot at 25%. And we'll hit enter on that. Okay, that will get us to basically the last point in there. So we should be able to now right click and finish. So I'm going to do that before I go on. So we're going to right click and finish. You do have a fit view option down here at the bottom, the little mountain tops across the bottom right there. That'll fit view and everything will look as it does in the manual. Okay, we're going to save our template library, so that's our next step. So up underneath the file pull down menu, we'll just do a save. Okay, and now that saved our template library for us. Next, we're going to test the end conditions because I know when I created it, I had 2 end conditions with the same priority, number 1. So whenever we test it, we should get a warning telling us that there are priority conflicts. So that's what we're going to take a look at here. We're going to test it, check priorities, and then we're going to notice that that fill slope T has some end condition conflicts. Okay. Then in the end condition properties, we're going to go to edit, and we're going to change our priority for the ditch to number 2. And that will end our exercise. So let's go in and do that. So in this end condition, you want to make sure that it's working properly. You'll hit this test button down here in the lower right. It's going to tell you, warning, this template has end condition priority conflicts. Use the check priorities button to view and fix. Okay, so we'll do that. So it says check priorities. You can kind of see what's going on out here. You can kind of see the dashed line that represents our end conditions. We're going to hit this check priorities. Just like the manual says, the fill slope T has a possible issue. So we will edit that. And it says your end condition components, fill slope and the ditch, both have a priority 1. Which one do you want to override the other or to take precedence? So I can say that I want fill slope to be 1 and do that every time first. And then if you can't solve for the fill slope, go and do the ditch. And we'll make that a number 2. Click OK. Now there's no other problems, so we can close out of that. And then you can test this if you want. You can hit the draw button over here to the right. It's going to look at the active terrain. When you hit draw, it is basically pretending that the line that you have out here is your active terrain model. What happens if my terrain model is above my end condition? It's going to draw a ditch. If it goes below the end condition, it's going to draw a fill slope. Okay. That's just how that end condition is going to operate. Okay, so you can close that out. We now have the end conditions the way we want them, so we'll go ahead and save our template library. If you want, you can now go on to the next exercise, but that will conclude exercise number 2.